I'm about to throw this brand new iPhone 17 Pro off the top of this castle in the middle of Wales to find out if ESR phone cases meet the bold claims that they offer 7 times the protection of regular cases. And if it can indeed keep this phone safe from this monumental fall, then it will be my choice of phone case for the foreseeable future, because it marks the first time since the iPhone moved to a steel chassis with the iPhone X that I've actually decided to use a case. And that's because Apple haven't used steel. They've not even used titanium either. We're back to aluminium. Or for those across the pond, aluminum. The problem with that is that it's unbelievably soft, and even the slightest drop will result in deformation of your brand new £1,000 phone, or slightly more this time. There's already hundreds of pictures on social media of people's fresh new iPhones with massive scratches and dents that some reviewers are referring to as Scratchgate. So it's time to get back to reviewing and testing out some cases to find out what the best option is for your new phone, and naturally, it's go big or go home. Will this ESR case, which is specifically the CyberTough case, protect the device enough for it to live another day? Let's find out. Jesus, this is probably not a great idea, is it? Well, the case came off, but did it protect the phone? Let's see if that screen is smashed. Now, whilst I make my way down to have a look at how it's performed, let's run through the reasons why I've decided to test the ESR case range as my first introduction back into the world of phone cases. There were 4 things I needed on my checklist when I was looking for a case. 1, it needed to be particularly tough, but slim enough not to add unnecessary bulk. 2, it needed to protect the camera control button whilst also allowing pass-through of the capacitive touch functionality to ensure I can still do things like zooming with my finger. Then it needed to be MagSafe compatible at number 3, and at number 4, it needed to be wallet friendly. I didn't want to spend big money. Now, I recognise that the first thing on my wish list is a little bit paradoxical. The more protective cases are, the bigger they are by nature. So getting a tough but slim case is less about that and more about finding the balance between the form factor and function. And I think that ESR seems to have hit it on the head with this case. The case is actually in 3 separate sections: a harder outer, a rubber inner, and these unusual black pads on the inside of the rubber. This combination and triple layer of technology is what makes it particularly rugged, but also particularly slim. You'll notice that the rubber case does slightly protrude over the edges as well, but not enough to feel cumbersome or get in the way, but enough to further increase its durability for drops on the corner, which tends to be the place you always drop your phone. And that's even more important now, more than ever, now that we're back to aluminium. But then we've got those little black bits on the inside of the case. This is something called a pour-on lining, which I had to Google to find out what the hell that was. And according to the internet, it's a high-performance microcellular polyurethane foam. And supposedly you can find this sort of tech in products like insoles. So that should give you a good indication of the softness and shock absorption that this material gives this case. And the fact that it's all around the glass insert of the aluminium casing on the phone itself, that means that the glass will be super cushioned in the event of a drop. But it goes even further than this, though, for protection in ways that were a little bit of a surprise. Not only are the buttons protected with the inbuilt unibody rubber casing, but there's also some additional speaker protection in the form of a grill over the top built into this case. You've got these little hashings in the side as well, which aids with grip, another nice little design choice that delights. And then the last rugged design choice is the USB-C port on the bottom has a rubber cover, which will help stop the ingress of dirt or other rubbish. Now, for some, this might be an inconvenience if you're using it all of the time. But then again, maybe not. I mean, what's more inconvenient? Finding out whilst you're on holiday that your port is completely blocked with lovely white sand from the beach, or having to unbung it with the plug when you want to charge it in via the cable. And let's be honest here, most people will be charging it via MagSafe or wireless chargers by now. So for that slight inconvenience, I'll trade that for the pinnacle of protection. Now, I said earlier that I wanted the camera button to be able to function as intended, and indeed with this case it can, with a protective capacitive touch button of its own on top built into the case, which protects the one on the phone but allows that pass through. So another big box ticked for me. Other options don't necessarily have this. They either remove that functionality entirely or just have a massive cutout, which I don't like, partly because it leaves another glass section exposed, but it also makes using the button awkward if it's recessed through the case. This just gives me full functionality of the Apple device as intended, and it's a big bonus of this particular case. Another thing it ensures it can still do is be used with the MagSafe compatible devices, with the built-in MagSafe ring that you can kind of see the shape of on the rear. Now again, another important design aspect that not all case manufacturers adhere to, and when you're spending so much money on these phones, you don't want to hinder the functionality or features of the device. One more point on the design, and there's one final hidden feature about this case that was a deal breaker for me, and that's the built-in stand. Hidden around the iPhone 17 Pro's colossal plateau is a protective silver ring. There's actually more than just a silver ring. Pulling this out reveals that it is in fact a stand which can be used to keep the phone upright unaided. This is a real fun bit of the design that hides this stand feature in plain sight without making it massively obvious. Overall, this ticks every box for me from a case perspective, but the last thing on my list is perhaps the most important, and that's the cost, because I've found that many case providers that I've used, or that I used to know and love for being excellent value, are getting, well, rather greedy with their pricing. Some have gone astronomical in their pricing to what I would consider being beyond acceptable levels for what is essentially a piece of rubber and plastic. ESR, on the other hand, is much more respectable and wallet friendly. This particular model is the CyberTough case, and although the price seems to fluctuate a little bit, on their website at the time of this review it's currently at £20. Just over, which is a brilliant value considering the features. Now, if you want to take a look at ESR cases yourself, I'll link them in the description below for you. But ESR don't just make cases for iPhone, they make a ton of cases for different phones, so make sure you check them out. And if you're watching on TV, make sure you whip out your brand new iPhones without dropping them, because you might not have a case if you're watching this episode. But whip them out and scan that QR code and it'll take you straight to the ESR website. But all of the above is trivial and inconsequential if the case can't help your phone survive a fall. And survive it does. Dropping it from a small height, there's no damage at all to the chassis and the screen, which is particularly thanks to the ESR Armorite screen protector on it as well, which, by the way, as a little side note, is a real pleasure to put on. It actually came with an applicator and 2 spare protectors as well, and it makes it super easy to install, completely bubble free in under a minute. So it's It's so good you can't even tell it has one, yet supposedly gives your phone 10 times the impact absorption of a regular screen protector. But of course, some people won't just drop this from their pockets or off the table or off the bed. Some people might end up dropping it off a medieval castle. So without further ado, let's go back to the castle. Right, let's have a look at this. Okay, we've got the case. I'm not going to look at the phone for a second. We've got the case first of all. The case took a big hit in the corner, but it seems to be all right, actually. That is not too bad at all. A couple of scuffs on that metal ring. That's not too bad. But how is this done? Okay, we are... we're a little bit smashed. Okay, but is it just the screen protector? Let's have a look. Let's get this off. Okay, we have got a little bit of a dent in the top, only very slight. But that is impressive. Look, this has been a great reintroduction to phone case content for me because evidently they meet the promises that they make to consumers. And I'm truly amazed at how well the ESR case and screen protector has performed. I mean, look, there was some damage dropping it off a medieval castle. All I would advise is don't. But all the tests that we did dropping it from our pockets, it was absolutely fine. This will do the job more than enough for everyday use. But let me know what you thought of this episode. Do you want to see more extreme case tests? And if you do, hit that thumbs up and let me know in the comments. And as a reminder, go and check out the ESR case range at the links below or the QR code because these guys make some fantastic cases and it'll be cushioning my phone for the foreseeable future while they're aluminium. But other than that, guys, I'll see you back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon. And it is aluminium, not aluminum.